Torah Garden, speaking the absolute truth. Torah Nation.
Shalom, 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 Yashar'Al and Yahudah. Grafted in Gentiles into the body of Mashiach. We the people of the book broadcast is going down. Called to warn Yashar'Al and Yahudah to repent, to turn to Yahuah through faith in Yahushua Mashiach. Listening to none other than them brutes, tearing down strongholds, produced by the Basur of truth. We own the rights to this music. We praise Yahuah for a Torah, a living Basura, a word made flesh, a word of truth, a sure word. Abba Yahuah, in the name of Yahushua Mashiach, we give you praise. Todah, 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 Rabbah. Abba, I thank you right now for your Ruach Elohiym that's in my belly, for which would flow rivers of living water. Abba, I thank you for the Ruach Elohiym of truth. Yahushua said, ye shall receive a comforter, a Ruach of truth. Abba, I give you praise. Abba, I pray that you would take the reins of my lips and the reins of my tongue and reign, that a word, a sure word, would come forth from me and resonate in the hearts of those that you have chosen, that it would quicken them, set them ablaze. Abba, in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, establish them as a people of a nation. Abba, I pray right now in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach that word will go forth and not return it to you void. Abba, I thank you for power, authority to tread upon serpents and scorpions, power and authority to bind the works of Hasatan, power to bruise his head. I bind you, demons. I bind you, devils. I bind you, principalities and powers. I exercise my authority over you in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. I bind you. I command you to loose the people of Yahuah. Turn Yahuah's people loose. He said, whatever I bind on earth is bound in heaven, and whatever I loose on earth, I loose in heaven. Yahuah, in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, I give you praise. Abba Yahuah, I magnify your great name. I praise your great name. Abba, I exalt you. I magnify you. I glorify you. Abba, I thank you for the victory overcoming the world, even my faith. I thank you that I operate in the armor. I declare a word, a Torah of truth. I thank you that I have received power because the Ruach Elohiym has come upon me. Authority, exousia. I praise you. Abba, let the words of my mouth, meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. Yahuah, strength of my Redeemer. Hallelujah. Listen, man of Yah, woman of Yah, hear the word of Yahuah. Right? Hear the word of Yahuah. Listen, I am called to tear down strongholds. I am called to serve Yahuah in this Torah, in this Basura. I am them brutes. I am of the nation of Yahudah. I am going to war against the powers of darkness that is trying to hold on to the people of Yahuah. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, I stand tall in the Torah, in the Basura, anchored. My feet are solid, rock to the ground, and I refuse to be moved. I refuse to be removed. I refuse to be removed. I refuse to be moved. I praise Yahuwah, Lord. Again, listening to none other than the Basura the Basura of Truth production. The song is entitled "Them Bruised." And we tearing down strongholds. We're tearing down strongholds. We praise Yahuwah, Lord, for this witness. The Ruach Elohiym, the water and the blood, we gonna go in. We praise Yahuwah for the word, the living Torah, the living Basura of truth, right? We started off some things yesterday, laid some frameworks in relationship to establishing and or bringing in an understanding of the power that exists in the hands of those who have the ability and the capacity to teach, to lead, to change minds, right? And it is by either the Word of Yahuah, right, or the Word of Hasatan, right? It's either by the Torah and the Besorah of truth or by the lies that are established by Hasatan. There is either a training unto righteousness or an understanding and a training unto darkness that leads to captivity. Yahuah set a precedence, right? He established the heavens and the earth. He did it by the spoken Torah of his mouth. He said a thing and a thing came to pass because he said it. And he saw it. There is nothing. There is no one. There is nothing created that has more ability and power to execute will in the earth as Yahuah. By his spoken word, his will comes to pass. Because his word is his will. Why is that important to us as his people? Because it is in our acceptance of his teaching, his training, right, that our will becomes surrendered to his will, and our demonstration takes on a demonstration of righteousness, which positions us to walk in perpetual blessings, right? Because we yield to the instructions and the teachings of Yahuah, again, which establish precedence. It anchors us as being his people. See now, Yashar'Al and Yahudah, you have to understand that there was this decree. There was this Torah put forth by Yahuah and the angels that established a word in reference to a Torah given to a people, right? A people. Now, we went over yesterday how Yahuah has always established a pattern of righteousness, a demonstration to be taught, right? And in the taught and the teaching and the learning process, you develop into the people of Yahuah by demonstration of your character in obeying his word. You become a people unto himself, right? Yashar'Al and Yahudah. He said, listen, I chose you from amongst others. I identified you and I recognized you to be the people that I have chosen to put my name in. Right? Not everybody. Not the world. The world did not want the knowledge. They did not want the Torah. They did not want to comply with and abide under a discipline of Torah that came with rewards, that came with results. But they chose to do what they wanted to do. They entertained the training, the teaching of those that led astray. Let's do this. Let's do this. Right? We understand that by, and we're gonna hit a few different books here. Right? We're gonna hit Jasher really quick first. Right? Right now, we are going to understand that in order to demonstrate righteousness, there is only one way to learn it. Right? The learning or the establishment of a righteousness comes from having been taught a Torah, a righteous Torah, a righteous word. Right? Jasher 3 and 8. And the Ruach of Yahuah was upon Chanoch, and he taught all his men the wisdom of Yahuah in his ways. He taught them the wisdom of Yahuah, Yahuah's ways. We referenced Psalms 119 and 1, right? In reference to the word being the way. Psalms, I'm going to read it again. Psalms 119. Right. Right. Psalms 119 and 1. Blessed are the undefiled in the way. Right? The way. Enoch taught the way. Right? Who walk in the law of Yahuah. The law of Yahuah, the Torah, is the way. Blessed are they that keep his testimonies, the way, and seek him with the whole heart, right? They also do no iniquity. They walk in his way, which is the way, right? Back to Chanoch, back to Jasher, right? And the Ruach of Yahuah was upon Chanoch. Again, we have to understand the importance of the Ruach of Yahuah on the person that is teaching the way. If you don't have Yahuah's Ruach Elohiym, you can't teach the way. Yahushua said in Yochanon the 14th, behind the 14th chapter. Yochanon. Yeah, we just gonna recap it and re-hit it all real quick. Right? Yochanon 14. Right? Yochanon says, right? Yochanon said, and Yochanon 14 and 16. And I will pray Abba, and he will give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever. In the verse previous to that, he says, if you love me, you will keep the way. Or, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. Why? Because in Psalms, he says, they do no iniquity and walk in his way. It says in that first verse, blessed are the undefiled, those who have not allowed sin to affect the way in their lives. Why? Because they walk in the law, the Torah of Yahuah, right? They are in the way of Yahuah. He says, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments, which means that you will abide in the way. Why is the way important? Because the only way to Yahuah has always been the way. The way has always been Torah. The way has always been the Torah and what comes as a result of obedience to Torah is an example or a depiction of the way. He says, I will pray Abba, and he will give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever. Now, Yahushua was having a conversation with the disciples, because, the disciples was grieved because Yahushua was getting ready to go. And then, you have Philip, he'd be like, look, we seen the Father, show us the Father. Listen, if you see me, you seen Abba. Right? Look, if you love me, just keep my commandments. Right? And then he says, even the Ruach HaKodesh of truth. Right? Whom the world can't receive, because they see him not and knows him, but ye know him, for he dwells with you and shall be in you. You don't have the Ruach of Yahuah, and you don't have the Ruach of Yahuah, and because you don't, you cannot declare the way. Can't declare the way without the Ruach HaKodesh. Yahushua was able to declare the Torah because he was the way. He was the Torah made flesh. Oh, we like this. We got to get this. We got to get this. We got to get in this, right? We got it. Yochanon 14:6. Right? Yochanon 14:6. Yochanan says, right? Yochanan says in the 14th chapter 6th verse, and Yahushua said unto him, I am the way. Now, he was referencing the Torah, because we know that he was the Torah made flesh. You have to understand, you have to come by the way. You have to receive the teaching of the way by a man who has Yahuwah's Ruach HaKodesh, that has the ability to teach you the way. Why? Yahushua says, I am the way. Right? I am the truth. Right? Torah is true. I am the truth and the life. I am that which gives you life. When you receive my atonement, you are going to receive a new heart, a new Ruach HaKodesh. You are passing from death to life in Hamashiach Yahushua. He is the Torah made flesh. The Torah is a guaranteer of life. The Torah is a spoken word of Yahuah that comes to pass because it has to, because it's life. It's life. It's life, right? It says here, he says, no man comes unto Abba but by me. Why? Because I am the Torah. You can't get to Yahuwah other than by the Torah. Now, the Torah coupled with an atonement that positions you in righteousness with Yahuwah, which gives you the capacity to walk in obedience to Torah, the life. Can't come to Yahuwah. You can't come to, and listen, You can't teach nobody nothing without the Ruach of truth. Now listen. Now let me preface this. Let me preface this, right? You can teach anything. You can teach anybody anything. That's what we witness in the arrets on a continual basis. Right? You can teach anything. But life, that which brings eternal life, that which brings a distinction and a separation between light and darkness, that witness of Yahushua HaMashiach's atonement, that is life. That's what Yahuah taught the people, life. He taught them the need to obey Torah, because Torah brings life. Torah brings light, right? Torah brings a commitment, an obedience to Torah brings everything you need to be successful in life. Torah. Now, Enoch had the Ruach of Yahuah, which gave him everything he needed, that he received instruction, the capacity to teach the way of Yahuah to the world. But it wasn't a mandate for everyone. It went out to everyone, but he was specific in what he said. He says here, and Chanoch, he says, and the Ruach was upon Chanoch, and he taught all his men the wisdom of Yahuah and his way, and the men served Yahuah all the days of Chanoch, right? All the days of Chanoch, and they came to hear him. There's a verse that I want to get to here. It says, verse 6, right? Verse 6 says, and he ordered it to be proclaimed in all places, right? Right now, what did he order to be proclaimed? Go to verse 5. We're going to go up to 5. And Chanoch rose up according to the word of Yahuah, and he went forth from his house, from his place, and from the chamber in which he was concealed, and he went to the sons of men and taught them the way of Yahuah, and at that time assembled the sons of men and acquainted them with the instruction, the Torah, the way of Yahuah. And he ordered it and proclaimed in all places where the sons of men dwelt, saying, where? Hear ye, hear ye. Where is the man who wishes to know the way of Yahuah? Who wants to know what it means to be born again? Who wants to know what it means to be sons and daughters of Yahuah? Come unto me, because I have Yahuah's Ruach, and I have his Torah, and my purpose is to declare to you the way. See, Yashar'Al and Yahudah, see, we're in this wickedness that we're in because we refuse to be taught the way. We refuse to hear and receive the way. We've received the ways of the world. We've received the ways that they have bombarded us, and they have sought to teach us their way, right? But the way of Yahuah is through faith in Yahusha, having received the Ruach HaKodesh that will teach us, lead us, guide us in the way. So you gotta understand the importance of the way. You gotta understand that the way was always established. But everybody didn't want to hear the way. Everybody didn't want to hear the way. That's why, you hear me say it now, I give a word, but it ain't for everybody. It goes out. Hear ye, you must be born again. Yashar'Al Yahudah, you need to repent. Learn not the ways of the heathen. If my people, which are called by my name, would humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from the Shamayim. I will forgive their sins and heal their lands. That's the declaration to you to turn to Yahuah and come back to his way. Because you through your forefathers have submitted to the ways of the heathen. He says here, where is the man who wishes to know the way of Yahuah? It's good works. Who wants to know what and how to do good? Got to come by the way. Men and brethren, we hear what you're preaching on the day of Pentecost, and we are convicted in our hearts. What must we do to enter into the way? What must we do? How can we eat the good of the land always? By remaining in the way. By keeping the way. Right? So the way is Torah. The way is Torah. The way is good. Right? Enoch said, where is this man, the third chapter, 6th verse, towards the end of the verse. Where is the man who wishes to know the way of Yahuah? And in good works. I think our faith without works is dead. To know the Torah, but don't walk in Torah. To know the way and not walk in the way. There's no good fruit. He says, let him come to Chanoch. And all the sons of men assembled to him, for all were desirous of this thing, went to Chanoch. All that was desirous of the way went to hear Chanoch. That they may be a demonstration of the good. See, I just want those that Yahuwah has chosen to hear the word, right? Right? To choose the good. Right? Because there's a good, acceptable, and the perfect will of you. I want you to understand the good. Right? Right? I want you to live above the acceptable and pursue the perfect. Because in that, there's a demonstration of the way. There is an obedience to Torah. They are people who desire to know the way. This is what this is. Right? The way is Torah. Yahusha is the way. Right? Let's do this real quick. Right. John 14, John 1 and 14. Right? Right? And the Word, the Torah, the Besorah, right? That was chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Yahuah, and the Word was Yahuah. The same was in the beginning with Yahuah. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. In him was the way. The way brought light in darkness. The way shined in darkness. The Torah brings light. The Torah translates you from the dominion of darkness. The Torah made flesh, Hamashiach Yahusha's witness, translates you from the dominion of darkness, right, by way of water, by way of blood, and by way of the Ruach HaKodesh. It translates you from the dominion of darkness unto the kingdom of his dear son, the kingdom of light. See, you need to be taught this. You need to understand how significantly important it is for you to unlearn the ways of the heathen and cling to the way of Yahuah by way of Torah, by way of Torah made flesh, by way of Yah salvation, Yahusha. Must learn that you have to be born again, right? You have to learn this. You have to unlearn the ways of the heathen. You can't mix the two. Right? You can't mix the righteousness of Torah, right? You can't mix the righteousness with Torah with the world. Right? Right? You can't. He said, what fellowship is righteousness with unrighteousness? What agreement has the temple of Yahuah with idols? What concord has Christ with Belial or Baal or wickedness or filthiness? Baal. Right? What agreement? You have to unlearn. You've been taught. Right? You have submitted to the teachings. You have submitted to the knowledge and the training. And now in that you are diabolically opposed to the righteousness that is in Hamashiach Yahusha, right, through faith, having believed the witness that Yahuah sent to provide an atonement for your sins and to position you by virtue of a new heart and a Ruach HaKodesh that translates you from darkness to light. He says here, right, the light shined in darkness, but the darkness couldn't overcome it. Darkness couldn't overcome Yahusha. Darkness didn't overcome us. If we've been born again in the water, Ruach HaKodesh, you've been translated from darkness. The only way you will know this is by having been taught. You've been lied to. You've been lied to. All right, it says here, drop down to the 14th verse, and the Word was made flesh. The Word, spoken Torah, the same Word that created the heavens and the earth, the same Word that brought forth light out of darkness, right? That same word was made flesh. And the disciples said it dwelt, he, Yahushua, the word made flesh, dwelt among us. And we beheld him. Look, we are witnesses. Yeah, we was of the 70. We was the 12 that remained. Because, you know, the other ones, they couldn't tolerate the idea of, you know, eating his flesh and drinking his blood. They also, you know, they were on the fence anyway. They was rolling with it as long as it was beneficial to them. But, you know, when they started, you know, well, we done with this. He dwelt among us. We seen it all. Right? The only begotten, the only one that Yahuah sent forth his seed into to produce an only begotten of him. Yahushua. You can't be an only begotten if it's you. You know, okay, it's stupid idiots, man. I'm sorry. I ain't even sorry. Idiots. How you gonna say Yahusha is Yahuah? Or Jesus? Well, Jesus could be God because they both pagan and they ain't like anything anyway. Jesus and the Lord Baal and Yesu and Jesus. Yeah, they can whatever y'all want to say about them, but not Yahuah and not Yahusha. Yahusha is the only begotten of Abba. He was necessary in order to redeem a kinsman through an atonement by way of a sacrifice as a lamb without blemish. See, you ain't gonna even catch that. You ain't gonna even understand that. You ain't gonna be able to fathom that without you as Ruach Elohiym, the truth. You gotta have you as Ruach Elohiym, the truth to teach this. Ruach Elohiym to teach this, man. Enoch taught it. Enoch taught it. The word was made flesh and dwelt among us. We beheld his glory. As the only begotten of Abba, not the only begotten of the begotten. Not the only Abba of Abba. Yeah, make that make sense, man. I'm telling you, these devils, man, they ain't got the Ruach Elohiym. You ain't got the Ruach Elohiym. You're teaching crazy, stupid stuff like that. There's no foundation for that, right? There's no Torah for that. Right? The Torah of truth reveals Hamashiach Yahusha in the beginning to the end. He's full of grace. He's full of truth. Why? Because he's a Torah. He was the word of Yahuah spoken into the womb of Mary, delivering a physical manifestation, Yahusha. Let's go back to Jubilees. So Chanoch was able to reign over the sons of men according to the word of Yahuah, and they came and bowed down unto him to hear his words. Now, you know, somebody be like, well, you know, why they bowing down to him? Listen, if he's reigning as a king, right, you would bow down to a king. You wouldn't praise a king. But you bow down to the king in honor. You bow your head. And the Ruach of Yahuah was upon Chanoch, and he taught all his men the wisdom of Yahuah and his way. He was instructed to teach them how to please Yahuah, to walk in the good way. See, Yashar'Al and Yahudah, right? For so long we have as a nation, right, not walked in his way. You know, despite these wicked heathens that want to tell you that Yahuah doesn't have Israel or Yashar'Al any longer, he has the church. Well, there is no foundation, right, to that ridiculous statement. Everything in the Torah, everything the Besorah points to a people, right? They're called by his name, right, to a people. Right? And they served Yahuah all the days of Chanoch, and they came to hear his wisdom. Right? They came to hear his wisdom. There was a generation that was not influenced to the degree that the generation that proceeded as a result of the fallen having committed fornication with the daughters of men, thereby giving them knowledge that they weren't supposed to have. Because, right, this taught them how to move outside of the way. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. There's some other scriptures we're going to get to, but I still got something that I need to deal with in Yasher. Right? And it says, and all the days of Chanoch lived upon the earth were 365 years. And when Chanoch had ascended into heaven, all the kings of the earth rose and took Methuselah his son and appointed him, and they caused him to reign over them in their father's place. And Methuselah acted uprightly in the sight of Yahuah, his father, and side of Yahuah, as his father Chanoch had taught him. Chanoch taught Methuselah the way. Methuselah continued to be the demonstration of the way, teaching men wisdom, right? Teaching men to understand and to know the way. The way of Yahuah, the Torah of Yahuah, what Yahuah requires. The necessity of obedience to Torah. He says in Chanoch, had taught him, and he likewise during the whole of his life taught the sons of men the knowledge and the fear of Yahuah. Taught them the knowledge and the fear of Yahuah. Why? Because it has to be taught. You're either going to be taught the righteous way of Torah, or you're going to be taught and learn the wickedness of this world. That's why there's only two people. There are those who are in right relationship with Yahuah through Hamashiach Yahusha's witness and obedience to Torah, and everybody else. There are those that are in the way, right? And then there are those that are in the way. Because they teach in opposition to the way, right? Which puts them in the way. You're a problem. You're a problem to the way. You're in the way of progress. Not because you're in the way progressing, but because you're in the way standing in between those that are living right and looking to fulfill the way, and those who have no desire, plan, or intentions to serve Yahuah in the way, but choose to be in the way of Hasatan, blocking those that are in the way. Hear the word of Yahuah. Hear the word of Yahuah. Right? And Methuselah acted upright in the sight of Yahuah as his father Chanoch had taught him. You have to be taught the way. You have to be taught the way by a man who has Yahuah's Ruach Elohiym. It could be a woman too. I'm not opposed to women teaching. I'm opposed to women teaching without a head. Yeah. I don't like that, but I don't care because there's still order in the house, in the dominion of Yahuah. There's an order. Teaching the way. Right? Right? He says here, as his father Chanoch had taught him, and likewise during the whole of his life, he taught the sons of men wisdom and knowledge and the fear of Yahuah, and he did not turn from the good way. He did not turn from the good way. Right? He did not turn from the good way. Right? Okay, what happened? Good way. Either to the right or to the left. There's only one way. There's only one way to Yahuah. That is the way. It has always been the way. It has always been the way. There's always been one way, and that way has always been the same to Yahuah. The Torah. The way. Obedience to Torah. The way. Faith in the witness of Hamashiach Yahusha. Obedience to the way. That's why, you can't tell me that baptism is not necessary. You don't have to be baptized. What? That has always been a part of the way. So much so that Hamashiach Yahusha, right, made it known that he must fulfill all things attached to the way. It's not even rocket science, man. It's not even rocket science. What are you saying? He says here, but in the latter days of Methuselah, the sons of men turned from Yahuah and corrupted the earth. They robbed and plundered each other, and they rebelled against the way. Right? They rebelled against Yahuah and transgressed and corrupted their way. Right? They corrupted their way. Right? Their way. Wait, no. They learned. They were taught. They were given forbidden knowledge that contributed to their fallen nature already, because they were sin, right? Fallen nature. But they had the influence of the watchers, who provided them with instruments to help facilitate them, right, moving out of the way of Yahuah. Right? He says here, and they corrupted their ways and would not hearken to the voice of Methuselah, but rebelled against him. And Yahuah was exceedingly wroth against them, and Yahuah continued to destroy the seeds of those days, making it difficult for them to plant seed and harvest, right? Sowing not, reaping in the earth. For when they sowed the ground in order that they might obtain food for their support, thorns, behold, thorns and thistles were produced, which they did not sow. Right? What we see is that which Solomon said. There's nothing new under the sun. That which was, has been, and will be. Right? Right? Because, there's this fallen nature of man. But yet you have this righteous remnant that exists. So in this fallen nature of man, you can expect to see and witness this pattern of unrighteousness throughout the ages. But there also is a pattern of the seed of Yahuah, the sons of Yahuah, the daughters of Yahuah, that are of the nation and that are of the other nations that have been grafted in, right? Because the process of grafting has always been there. You could choose to come and live amongst Yashar'Al and Yahudah. But it was to a nation of people that Yahuah gave a Torah. It's a nation of people that Yahuah has established as his own. There is a righteous seed, Yaakov. He says here, and still the sons of men did not turn from their evil ways, and their hands were still extended to do evil. Right? I suppose Yahuah told us not to learn the ways of the heathen. Why would Yahuah say not to learn the ways of the heathen? Because he knew that the ways of the heathen was going to separate you from him. Right? We were in our men's prayer reading this morning, and Ak was reading from 2 Kings, I think it's 2 Kings 21. 2 Kings 21. Right? And how in 2 Kings 21 there's this 400-year pattern of repetitive behavior, right? Turning, sinning, turning, sinning, turning, sinning. Got to the point where, your kings and your leaders, they literally went into the diabolical phase where there was this blatant disregard for Torah, this blatant disobedience that they learned, that they were taught. There's nothing new under the sun. Yashar'Al, Yahudah, you were brought to a country. You were stolen from your land. And there's a lot going on in reference to, deportation and all of those things that represents a group of people, that has literally come over to the United States freely, right? Illegally, but freely. Made the choice to come over, right? Because it was bad where they were, right? And they came over, right? Illegally, right? Some of them, have been here for years. Some of them don't have citizenship, right? But illegally, they're here, And do they deserve to be kicked out? Right? Should they follow the legal process? Of course. And those who want to will. Right? Right? But we didn't get that opportunity. We were taken. We didn't come over to the United States of America because it was bad in our country. It was good in our country. It was good in our land. We didn't make a choice to come over to the United States of America on ships, sipping and eating and doing whatever. We were forced in chains. And millions of us didn't even make it. We were thrown overboard. Millions. Right? Millions. So, there's this misrepresentation. This feeling that, there should be something more from the melanated African American people to show its support and solidarity. Listen, I'm going to tell you as a Hebrew what Yahuah told me. He said, listen, go in the house, close the door, and wait for the indignation to pass. That's what he told me as a Hebrew. Right? So I don't go anywhere and stand up for anything unless Yahuah tells me. And according to Scripture, he told me to go in and shut the door. That's what I've been taught. That's what I have learned. That's what I have and am willing to walk in obedience to. Right? Because, I see the handwriting on the wall. I know the evil. I see the evil. Some things you just gonna have to walk out. My ancestors had to walk them out. Taken from our country, brought to the United States and sold on auction blocks. Children torn from their parents. We know we've been there. We've been there. There was nobody up for speaking for us. We understand what that is. I understand what that is. We couldn't go back home. We couldn't make a choice to go back home. Because, we'd have to cross the ocean. Right? Everything that you feel that there's no sensitivity to, we understand the playbook. We see what's happening. Right? We witnessed Jim Crow. Right? A people. Hebrews. right? We was taught that we had to learn their culture. We didn't come over here wanting to be like them. We didn't come over here wanting to be like the heathen. We were made and conformed. Evil, right? Evil. It says here, right? But in the latter days, Methuselah, the son of man, turned from Yahuah and corrupted the earth, and robbed and plundered each other, and they rebelled against Yahuah and transgressed. They corrupted their ways, they corrupted their ways, they corrupted their ways, and would not hearken unto the voice of Methuselah, but rebelled against him, and Yahuah was exceedingly wroth against them, and Yahuah continued to destroy the seed in those days, so that there was neither sowing nor reaping in the earth. Right? Now jump down to the verse 7. And still the sons of men did not return from their evil ways. You had a remnant. But still, he said, but still the sons of men did not turn from their evil ways, and their hands were still extended to do evil in the sights of Yahuah, and they provoked Yahuah with their evil ways, and Yahuah was very wroth and repented that he had made man. Right? Taught. How did they get this knowledge, this understanding? Let's go here. Let's see. All right, so you fetch him. Okay. Jubilees, the 7th chapter. Right? Let's start the 20th verse. And in the 28th Jubilee, Noach began to enjoin upon his sons the ordinances and commandments and all the judgments that he knew, and he exhorted his sons to observe. It's after the flood. He's teaching them the Torah that he received from his father. Just like Methuselah received it from Chanoch. Right? And he exhorted his son to observe righteousness and to cover their shame of their flesh and to bless their creator and honor their father and mother and love their neighbor and guard their souls from fornication and uncleanness and in all iniquity. For owing of these three things came the flood upon the earth, namely owing to the fornication wherewith the watchers against the Torah of their ordinance went a-whoring after the daughters of men, and took themselves women of all which they chose, and they made the beginning of uncleanness. Right? And they begat sons, the Nephilim, and they were all unlike, and they devoured one another, and the Nephilim slew the Nephil, and Nephil slew the Elo, and Elo mankind and one another. Right? And everyone sold himself to work iniquity. They gave in to the iniquities that they were taught. Right? He says here, and everyone himself iniquity, and to shed much blood, and the earth was filled with iniquity. And after that they sinned against beasts and birds and all that moved and walked on the earth. How did they do this? They were taught it. They were taught the ways of the Nephilim. He says here, and walked the earth with much blood was shed on the earth, and every imagination and desire of man managed a vanity and evil continually. Right? And Yahuah destroyed everything from off the face of the earth because of the wickedness of their deeds that they were taught. And because of the blood which they had shed in the midst of the earth, he destroyed everything. And the only ones was left was those that were in the ark. Right? 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 And Jubilee, and back in Jasher. And all the sons of men departed from the ways of Yahuah those days as they multiplied upon the face of the earth. That's verse 16. Sons and daughters, and they taught one another evil practices. See, you got to be taught evil. Just like you got to be taught righteousness. You know, people say, well, you ain't got to teach a baby how to do wrong. Yeah, you do. Right? You have to conform, mold a child's behavior. You have to reward him constructively and discipline him constructively in order to shape his understanding of the world. If you don't, then those things which he observes and he witnesses and he does because he understands it as being taught, right? He will do what he learns. It don't take long. It doesn't take long to destroy a nation. It doesn't take long to destroy a generation. It doesn't take long to set a wicked generation forward. Doesn't take long. Right? Yashar'Al and Yahudah, you've learned this wickedness. You've learned it. You've learned it, right? Let's do this. Let's do this. Let me read a couple more verses. We gotta go somewhere else real quick. He says here, and everyone made unto himself made gods. And he robbed and plundered every man his neighbor as well as his relatives. And they corrupted the earth, and the earth was filled with violence. And their judges and rulers went to the daughters of men, and they took women by force from their men according to their choice. And the sons of men in those days took the cattle of the earth and beasts of the fields and birds of the air, and taught the mixture of animals. They had, right, the knowledge that was given to them by the watchers, right, to affect DNA, to change the natural order. That which Yahuah had created, right? Species. A lion for a lion. A tiger for a tiger. A bear for a bear. And a specific bear for a specific bear. Where they were taught this wickedness, this evil. Taught it by the watchers. In exchange for the daughters of men. He says here, and Yahuah said, I will blot out man that I've created from the face of the earth, yea, from men to the birds of the air, together with cattle, with beasts, and all that is a field, for the repented I have made them. Right? Right? And all men who walked in the way of Yahuah, the remnant, all that would come to Methuselah, let him come. All that would come to Chanoch, let him come to hear the wisdom of Yahuah. And that remnant died. And all the men who walked in the way of Yahuah died in those days before Yahuah brought the evil upon men which he had declared, for this was from Yahuah. See, Yahuah's going to always deliver the righteous. They ain't appointed under wrath. They were never appointed under wrath. Right? Never. Yashar'Al and Yahudah. Right? You who have come by the way. You who are of the other nations. Who have accepted the way. Yahuah has not appointed you to wrath. Walk in obedience, seeking Torah. It's not your place, it's not your demonstration to experience Yahuah's wrath. He's not appointed you for that. He's appointed you for wrath. He does not appoint his children for wrath. Right? He says, and Yahuah and all the men who walked in the way of Yahuah died in those days before Yahuah brought the evil upon men which he had declared, for this was from Yahuah, that they should not see the evil of Yahuah. See, Yahusha said, listen, that day, no, it was Yahusha. Might have been the Apostle Paul. Said that day will not overtake you as a thief. Because, it's going to come as a thief in the night. It's going to come as a thief in the night. But it's not going to come to you as a thief in the night. Right? Because you're not appointed unto the wrath that is to precede that day that brings judgment as a thief. You're going to be ready. You're going to be prepared. He's going to tell you what to do. He's going to show you where to go. Because it's not for you. I see, as a people, Hebrews are by far the most resilient. The most resilient people. Right? Yahuah has established a people who has seen the spectrum of violence. It's because of our own doing, because of our failure to keep a Torah and to walk in his way, right? But when that people that are called by his name turn to the way, I ain't talking about Yesu, I ain't talking about Jesus, and I ain't talking about Jesus. And I ain't talking about Baal, I ain't talking about the Lord. I'm talking about Yahusha, right? Yahuah through faith in Yahusha. These people are established and reconnect to the way. They have nothing to fear. They have nothing to be worried about. They have nothing to fear. They have nothing to worry about. Because they serve Yahuah. Right? You gotta understand. You have to be taught. You have to be taught. You have to understand the discipline that was required. Having received the witness, you have access to the Ruach Elohiym of truth, which can lead you and guide you so that you continue to be successful in this witness. You can be a demonstration of the good way. The good way is Torah. Right? The good way is Torah. The good way is Yahushua HaMashiach's witness. Understanding Yahushua HaMashiach's witness as the good way, right? And clinging to Yahusha, Yah's salvation, Yahushua HaMashiach as the way, right? You will pass from death to life. It says, Scripture says, and you have ye quickened. You will be quickened. Right? Let's go there real quick. Let's go there real quick. Right? Right. Right? It says here, right? And whom ye, no, that's right. Chapter 2. And you have ye quickened, right? Who were dead in trespasses and sin. You who received the witness. Transformed, right? For you used to walk according to the course of this world in times past. Right? According to the prince of the power of the air. Right? The Ruach that worketh in the children of disobedience. You once. You allowed yourself to be retaught. Or to be taught. Because there are people of Yashar'Al and Yahudah that are so far removed from Torah that they don't even know who they are. You who want to know the way of Yahuah through Yahusha, the truth and the life, the way, let him come to the Basor of truth. I'm just saying Basor of truth because I'm speaking it, right? It could be anybody who is Ruach Elohiym. I'm not just promoting me, I'm just promoting a truth of Torah by the Ruach Elohiym. Yahuah's got thousands that haven't bowed to Baal. You have changed dominions. You have to understand the value of changing dominions. According to the prince of the power of the air, the Ruach that now work in the children of disobedience, among whom also we all had our conversation. We all lived this way. Right? Lived this way according to the power of the air. We were fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature children of wrath, just like they were at the time when Methuselah was saying, come. And they were saying, no. Same, there's nothing new under the sun. Receive a Torah. Walk in the way. No, we prefer to fulfill the desires of our flesh. We prefer to fulfill the desires of the flesh and of our minds. We choose G4202, G4203, G4204, G4205. We choose these. We choose to receive what we have been taught. We choose to receive that which we have been taught. Man of Yahweh with you. Hear the word of Yahuah. Right? Unlearn. Right? Break from. Separate yourself from the heathen. No, what is that? Second Corinthians. Right? It speaks in reference to fellowship, communion, union, right? 2 Corinthians 6:14. Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion has light with darkness? Come out from among them. They're children of darkness. Yahudah said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father, Yahuah. No man comes unto Yahuah except through Yahusha, his salvation. The priest. The Lamb. The Word. Wrapped in the one. What communion has light with darkness? What concord has a Mashiach with Belial? Or what part has he that believes with an infidel? Right? What agreement has the temple of Yahuah with idols? See, and this is all you're being taught. You're taught how to move in unrighteousness. You're taught how to allow wickedness. You're taught infidelity. Right? You're taught idolatry. Right? You're taught the worship of these other elves. You're taught this. Right? In Yahudah, he says, I will dwell in them, and I will be their Eluah, and they will be my people. Wherefore, come out from among them and be separate. Saith Yahudah. Right? And don't touch the unclean things. And Yahudah will receive you. Right? He says, and will be an Abba unto you, and ye shall be my sons and my daughters, saith Yahuah the Almighty Most High. So you have to understand that you have to learn the way of righteousness. You can't be born again of the water of the Ruach Elohiym and not learn the way of righteousness. You have to be taught the word of righteousness. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, called to greatness. Right? Woman of Yahuah, beautifully and wonderfully made. Hear the word of Yahuah. Yahuah has called you to righteousness. Right? He's called you to righteousness. He's called you to turn and submit unto him. Be established in this witness, born again in the water of Ruach Elohiym. Let's get it.
Check C.
Abba Yahuah, I give you praise. I give you praise, Yahuah. I pray for this people. I pray for this people that you have chosen. I pray for Yashar'Al and Yahudah's return to you by virtue of the covenant. You told me to teach them. You told me to tell them. And Abba, I'm praying that this word would reach those who you have chosen that have an ear to hear a truth, a Torah, and to be an example of that righteousness. Abba Yahuah, we are Yashar'Al. We are Yahudah. Abba, we stand tall in Torah. through faith and the witness of Yahushua Mashiach. We praise you. Abba, I pray that the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart will be acceptable in thy sight. Yahuah, my strength and my redeemer. Man of Yah, called to greatness, woman of Yahuah, beautifully and wonderfully made, today Yahuah's favors you. Hear the word of Yahuah. You have to learn. You have to be taught. You have to be taught the way of Yahuah. Something that we've been mandated to do. Hear the word of Yahuah. With that, I'm going to say, shalom, 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 be blessed.
Torah Garden, speaking the absolute truth. Torah Nation.